Welcome to TVB News. The city remains in shock following the gruesome stabbing of two women at a shopping mall in Diamond Hill on Friday. Today, flowers were laid at the scene of the fatal stabbing. Police are still detaining a 39-year-old suspect who is said to have a history of mental illness. Chief Executive JUN has expressed condolences to the families of the two victims.
Candles were lit and flowers spread out on the third floor of Plaza Hollywood in Diamond Hill, where the fatal stabbing happened in the late afternoon of Friday. This woman said, "I just felt so bad last night and I wanted to buy flowers this morning because I'm a mother too." Some residents, meanwhile, hope the police can soon determine the motive behind the attack. Meanwhile, Fai Guo is the unsung hero who grabbed two iron stools to stop the assailant from attacking the victims before the police arrived. The 64-year-old Chinese tea house worker has never received any martial arts training. He said, "I aimed for his forehead with these stools. I hit him again and he didn't fight back." Fai Guo said the man just stood there for a moment before bursting into tears. "It had nothing to do with stepping forward and being a hero. I just don't like people hurting others and I had to stop him," he said. He's 39 years old. He's physically fitter than I am, but I must stop him from wounding others, he added. Chief Executive JUN today expressed his condolences to the victims' families. He said he understands the public might be distressed by the news. He emphasized Hong Kong is a safe city and that he's asked the police to step up patrolling around town. The CE added it's important to improve mental health care in the city. Health Secretary Lo Chung-Mao also urged residents not to label patients undergoing mental treatment as a threat. The Social Welfare Department has set up a mobile station outside the shopping mall with clinical psychologists on standby to offer emotional assistance to members of the public.
Police revealed at midnight last night that the suspect had a history of mental problems. The suspect's father said today his son requires monthly checkups but stressed they get along well. While it's believed the suspect has schizophrenia, experts say these patients rarely launch vicious attacks unless triggered.
Sources say the 39-year-old suspect is a schizophrenia patient who last sought medical help in March and has history of violence and hospitalization. Our reporters found the father of the suspect today. He said, "My son is normal and we've gotten along so well." The father added his son appeared under the weather yesterday and that everyone felt terrible about what happened. His neighbor, meanwhile, said the suspect seemed fine. He said, "I think he jogs quite often and sometimes we greet each other." Experts say schizophrenia patients suffer from delusions or hallucination, and it's hard to convince them what they are seeing is not real. They may also have persecutory delusion and target people of a particular gender, color, or types of clothes and accessories they wear.
Sometimes they may have some background noises, or sometimes they may hear some human voices just asking them to do something or giving back commands to them, so that they usually react in a rather aggressive way or distressing way. Treatment-wise, usually medication is the very important. For those non-compliant patients, we can use injection, and it can last inside the body for maybe 4 to 6 weeks.
Others say this is a wake-up call for the government to pay more attention to mental health treatment.
In general, most of schizophrenia patients are not violent, actually. They're just like normal people. They have normal sort of living social life. So, yes, we can't say that, just because a person has schizophrenia, then they should be locked up. I think what we must do is actually educate the public. More resources should be put into mental health so that there is enough resource to identify and pick up schizophrenia and to stop these kind of tragedy from happening over again.
Lawmaker JUN also slammed the government for its lack of support and follow-up towards mentally ill patients.
A man armed with knives threatened his neighbours at Mei Fu Sun Chun this morning. Police later arrested the man with sources saying he suffered from schizophrenia. The incident occurred at 11 a.m. when authorities received reports of a man carrying 2 knives roaming outside units of Meifu Sanchun Phase 3 and threatening local residents. It is believed the man has a history with mental illness and that he previously made a noise complaint about his neighbors before terrorizing them. The observatory's very hot weather warning issued this afternoon remains in effect. At least 4 individuals suffered from heat stroke. One of them died after being sent to hospital. The incident occurred at around 3 in the afternoon today when the amber heat stress at work warning was in force. A worker at the Chinese University's New Asia College was suspected to have suffered from heat stroke and fell unconscious. He was sent to the Prince of Wales Hospital and was pronounced dead after resuscitation efforts failed. It is the first death since the implementation of the heat stress at work warning scheme over 2 weeks ago. A 3-day carnival organized by 26 pro-establishment groups got underway at Victoria Park today. Sources say the police will have some 6,000 officers on standby to ensure the event is not hijacked by others. Veronica Lin tells us more.
From Hainanese coconut rice to dried jackfruit, and a Sichuan-born artist doing sugar painting, a form of Chinese folk art. Some 200 booths here featuring traditional snacks and handicrafts from Fujian, Zhejiang, Chongqing, and more. Long queues were seen outside booths that gave out free sticky rice dumplings. Mr. Lau, one of the exhibitors, said business was better than usual, and that he had never seen this many customers. In just a few hours, he's made tens of thousands of dollars. Some residents bought what they came for. Ms. Lung said rice noodles are cheaper here than at supermarkets. Chinese Jinhua ham and abalones should complement each other well in making a soup, she added. Mr. L said the carnival is great for the elderly. He described the experience as similar to sightseeing. Apart from savory treats, some booths also offer a chance for visitors to wear traditional costumes from China's ethnic minorities. The carnival spans over 3 days and coincides with the 34th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square crackdown. Those who wish to enter the fair must be screened by security. The police will have 6,000 officers on standby, even though they have not received any application for holding a vigil at Victoria Park this year. Police said they might also deploy the counter-terrorism response unit. Sources said it is to keep away those who plan to hijack the event. Veronica Lin, TVB News.
Overseas, the death toll from a collision between 2 passenger trains in the Indian state of Odisha has surged to nearly 300, with more than 900 others injured. The accident occurred at 7 p.m. on Friday when an express train running from Bangalore to Howrah, West Bengal, collided with another express train going from Kolkata to Chennai. Tracy Furness has more.
Search and rescue teams worked through the night into Saturday morning in the eastern Indian state of Odisha, wading through the debris and wreckage, trying to find survivors of the country's worst rail accident in decades. It happened about 220 kilometers southwest of Kolkata and led to a chaotic scene with rescuers climbing atop the wrecked trains to break open doors and windows using cutting torches to free survivors. This survivor said, "I woke up and heard a loud bang and the train was derailed. I was lying on the top berth of the train and held onto the fan. When the train stopped, I was able to get out." Officials said 1,200 rescuers worked with 115 ambulances, 50 buses and 45 mobile health units through the night at the accident site. They said the accident happened when 10 to 12 coaches of one train derailed and debris from some of the mangled coaches fell onto a nearby track. The debris was hit by another passenger train coming from the opposite direction, causing up to 3 coaches of the second train to also derail. The country's railway minister, Ashwini Vaishnaw, visited the site Saturday morning. He said the focus right now is finding more survivors. He also said the Rail Safety Commissioner will open an inquiry into the accident to find out why it happened. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said his thoughts were with the bereaved families. "May the injured recover soon," he tweeted. Meanwhile, Modi chaired a meeting on the accident with Minister of Home Affairs Amrit Shah and other officials, assessing the rescue, relief and medical efforts following the crash. Saturday was declared as a day of mourning in Odisha. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Welcome back. Ukraine's counter-offensive against Russia remain on track, Kiev's deputy defense minister told Reuters today. Volodymyr Havrilov said despite intense Russian attacks on Kiev and other cities, preparations for Ukraine's counter-offensive are going according to plan. Meanwhile, anti-Moscow militias continue their cross-border attacks in their hopes of liberating Russia. Nazvi Karim has more.
These attack helicopter pilots are taking part in drills in northern Ukraine, preparing for the long-awaited counter-offensive aimed at retaking territory seized by Russia. Understandably, Ukraine is guarded on when the push will begin, or indeed if it has started already. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged patience, saying this is not a movie. It is hard to say how you will see the counter-offensive. The main point here is for Russia to see it, and not just see, but feel it. For Ukraine-based Russian militia groups fighting against Moscow, they have practically launched their own mini counter-offensive. The Freedom of Russia Legion and the Russian Volunteer Corps are already making incursions over the border north of Kharkiv. Russia is blaming the deaths of 4 people in the Belgorod region on these groups. 2 of the dead are women killed when their car was shelled. The Legion spokesman Alexei Baranovsky blamed the deaths on Russian shelling. He says their main aim is to eventually take control of Belgorod and steadily make their way towards their ultimate goal, Moscow. The Kremlin also blamed Ukrainian forces for the shelling of Russia-controlled port city of Berdyansk on the Sea of Azov, injuring 9 people. The border battles are taking place as Russia continues to bombard Ukraine's capital, Kiev, with missiles and drones. Russian President Vladimir Putin described the militias as Russian ill-wishers who will not be allowed to succeed. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in Helsinki, Finland, that a Ukraine-Russia ceasefire is not immediately on the cards because it would allow Moscow to consolidate seized territory.
A just and lasting peace must uphold the UN Charter and affirm the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence.
This as U.S. General Mark Milley says training has begun for Ukrainian soldiers on U.S.-made Abrams main battle tanks, with similar plans for F-16 fighter jets. For these helicopter pilots, meanwhile, the training phase cannot end soon enough. Our boys are highly motivated, said Commander Sergei Naev. We are ready to perform tasks. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Weather warnings remain in place in Japan as storms and heavy rain lash the country. It caused flooding, widespread damage, and forced people to evacuate. Tropical storm Mawa has weakened and missed most of Japan to the south, but southern islands still experience torrential downpours. Winds of over 90 kilometers an hour uprooted trees, causing injuries. Some areas experienced 30 centimeters of rain in 6 hours. A man died after he was stranded in a car and flooding caused him to drown. 3 Shenzhou 15 crew members will return to Earth early tomorrow morning. The taikonauts will bring back a number of biological samples, including experimental cell and rice specimens. The Shenzhou spacecraft is currently the only mode of transport in China capable of carrying crew members back and forth between Earth and space. Meanwhile, the designers of Shenzhou stressed that any minor change to the structure of the vehicle could pose a risk to the safety of the taikonauts and urged non-governmental individuals not to tamper with the spacecraft. Here in Hong Kong, Chinese university professor and infectious disease expert David Ho said the 6th wave of COVID-19 infections has reached its peak. He said it would last for another few weeks. Based on the proportion of positive PCR tests, sewage monitoring and fatalities, Ho said this wave of COVID peaked sometime last week. Many community groups have noticed a sharp increase in those who have tested positive using RATs. Ho said it will last a few more weeks before the number of new infections starts to dip. As the influence of the Belt and Road Initiative continues expanding in the Middle East, Egypt is aiming to play a larger role as Beijing's economic partner. Earlier this week, members of the Suez Canal Economic Zone met with top officials in the SAR and the mainland in a bid to attract Chinese businesses to one of the world's foremost trade routes. It is also the highest-level visit from Cairo to the city. Timothy Lee spoke earlier with the chairman of the Suez Canal Economic Zone.
Located at the crossroads of Asia and Africa, Egypt's Suez Canal has been playing a pivotal role in facilitating world trade for over a century. Completed in 1869, the canal stretches for over 190 kilometers and connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. Goods carried through the canal are valued at around $1 trillion annually. Earlier this week, representatives of the Suez Canal Economic Zone, a special economic zone which aims to promote economic growth and foreign investment in the waterway, met with top officials and businesses in the mainland and Hong Kong, including Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development Algernon Yao.
I think that Egypt and the Suez Canal Economic Zone play a huge and important part. 12% of the world trade passes through the Suez Canal. So it's a very essential element for world trade. We are a complementary part for the success of the Belt and Road Initiative, and we will play a huge and instrumental role for the nearshoring, bring the companies in China and Hong Kong closer to their markets in Africa, in Europe, in the Middle East. 2 days ago.
The chairman of the Special Economic Zone emphasized that he hopes to deepen ties with Hong Kong with this visit and increase the partnership between the two parties' ports. The SCEZ added that it believes cultural exchange is one of the best ways for Beijing and Cairo to improve ties, urging more Hong Kongers to select Egypt as their holiday destination.
As this year marks the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative, the chairman of the Suez Canal Economic Zone expressed his hope that Egypt will only further boost bilateral ties with Beijing. He added that with Egypt's advantageous geopolitical position, the country plays the role of a major trade facilitator between Asia, Europe, and Africa. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thanks for watching.